Steel-toed boots on. GS Construction wants to hear from you. We're looking for a maintenance foreman as well as a building and yard attendant. Visit gsconstruction.ca for more.
It's cone season at McDonald's, which means vanilla cones are $1 each plus tax in the McDonald's app all summer long. Soft, creamy, and crunchy. For just $1 each plus tax exclusively in the McDonald's app. App download and registration required at participating McDonald's in Canada.
Hi, Mike here from Northgate Chevrolet Buick GMC. Car shopping sucks. That's right. Going back and forth 100 times just to get a price. Give me your credit card for a test drive. What's all these extra fees? That sounds ridiculous. At Northgate, we do things a little differently. Good deals on new, pre-owned vehicles, good people, and a great selection. Stop in and see us today, 13215 97th Street, or visit us online at northgategm.com.
You're in Northgate country.
If you've got a smart speaker, get it to play Sports 1440.
And it doesn't matter when you listen as we roll out the Sports Talk
24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Edmonton's home for sports radio is Sports 1440.
Guys, there never seems to be enough time in the day, but you need to make time for this. Ken Franchek here. If you're 40 or over, a quick PSA blood test is crucial for early prostate cancer detection. The Prostate Cancer Center's Man Van is a mobile health clinic driving change for men's health. A few minutes could save your life. To get the Man Van out to your business or event, book today at getcheck.ca.
Grove Rotary Rib Fest is back July 10th to 12th with tasty ribs, live music, and family fun. Plus a live auction and 50-50 draw. Don't miss it. Brought to you by Mr. Lube Plus Tires in Spruce Grove. Tickets on site or in advance at groverotaryribfest.ca.
Get the inside scoop for your team on Fantasy Frenzy with Halley and Douglas on Sports 1440.
Presented by Wilhauk Beef Jerky, home of Alberta's best beef jerky.
Welcome in, Fantasy Frenzy here on Sports 1440 with Halley and Douglas. Declan Kruger sitting in for Connor Halley on this one. Brandon Douglas, of course, he's still Brandon Douglas. And I feel like I'm stepping on his toes a little bit because he's in the producer's chair. I'm in the host chair. I said, hand up, Brandon, this is your show. Like, if you want me out of here, I'll get out of here. But he stood 10 toes down and said, no, I'm where I want to be.
You're Connor Halley. I'm still Brandon Douglas. It's Halley and Douglas.
Yeah, but like, isn't it a little bit like, don't you kind of become Connor? Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying. It's Halley and Douglas. It's not Douglas.
No, but you're Connor Halley this week.
Yeah, all right.
You're taking on all of his responsibilities, including the premier host of the show. Yesterday, guess who was the premier host of the show?
It was Donovan.
It was Donovan Paulson because he was you when you were supposed to be Connor.
Right.
These weeks of holidays, they really get everything crisscrossed applesauce, but we power through all the same with great programming regardless who's in the chair.
Well, I'll tell you what, I'll do a little something right here to prove that I'm Connor Halley. Fantasy Frenzy, powered by Wilhauk Beef Jerky, home of Alberta's best beef jerky at wilhaukbeefjerky.com. And Brandon, I always had this thing when I would listen back when I was like young and naive, when I would listen to Joe Rogan. And I was like, listen, if I ever had a podcast, I would only sell ads for things that I actually believed in. Like that was my stand.
You were very morally sound in your outlook on your future as a podcaster.
There was no moral corruption there. Jump forward 15 years, things are a little bit different. But and I was like, listen, if I ever have a podcast, I'm only going to do ads for what I believe in. And then, obviously, no podcast, not always in your control. But the point I'm trying to work around to make is that I would do one for Wilhauk Beef Jerky. Because that is the bet. Like, I'm not the biggest red-blooded Albertan out there in the world. I'm a bit of a snowflake. The Techland will tell you that sometimes. But Wilhauk Beef Jerky is the best beef jerky you can come by, man. Like, it really, really, truly is.
Yeah, we've been lucky to get some drop-offs here at the studio a number of times over the several years that Wilhauk's been our presenting sponsor, and they don't last. Whether it be you, Josh, other just random people inside Stingray Studios here in West Edmonton Mall. The pepperoni, the jerky. They actually got some good canned goods as well, like pickled carrots, spicy ones. That's my personal little off the board favorite.
Yeah, okay.
But yeah, they all these samplers get snapped up in very short order.
So there are a few different things I want to talk about today. I feel like some news in the hockey world is slowing down a little bit, although there was a report out there that Claude Giroux is close to returning to the Senators. I think it had been previously reported that he was going to, by David Pagnotta, I believe it was, that he was going back to Philadelphia. I think Oilers fans were a little bit up in arms in that one. They were like, hey, we wanted that guy. Let me start there before I get to some of the some other news in the sporting world, because I do want to talk World Cup. Kyle Lowry has obviously retired. Did you see what Summer McIntosh did at the 200-meter butterfly the other day, by the way?
Yeah.
Just incredible stuff. But let's start there. With the $6.4 million the Oil have to play with, is Claude Giroux, because we haven't had many one-on-one conversations. We don't get to have a whole lot of crossover when we do these things. Is he one of the guys you would want to target with some of that extra cap space?
He was, yeah, for me, Declan, and I've kind of expressed this going back to last week, and funnily enough, even a little bit yesterday with Donovan. Like, that was the name I had as checked the most boxes for what the Oilers continue to maybe need. Does he have the same scoring punch to play in a top 6 at this stage on a game-to-game basis? Not so sold there, but his defensive presence, ability to kill penalties, win faceoffs critically as a right-handed shot guy, and then it almost just gives you a safety valve on the Ike Howard possibility of being your new top 6 scoring winger option. If he falters, if he stumbles, cold streaks, rookie walls, these are all realities that we know players endure. Then all of a sudden you have a veteran presence in Claude Giroux to help mitigate that, step backwards or pausing in development for Ike Howard. So he was a name I was at the top of my list. He's now unavailable. There's lots of other wingers out there, and a lot of them with scoring prowess. I'm kind of now tempered it and say, I think you just sit and wait now until maybe a better option comes available, even if that is via trade rather than free agency.
Yeah, one of the number one talking points of in this city every offseason is like, wait till the trade deadline. Wait till the trade deadline. Wait till the trade, which obviously makes sense when you look at the makeup of the team. But when you talk about the top 6 right now, how does that top 6 break down for you?
I would still be probably deploying Connor McDavid between Zach Hyman and Ryan Nugent-Hopkins.
Okay, so that's obviously Zach and Connor, that's a bit of a no-brainer. I was curious to know where Nuge fell into this, and you do have him as that top line left wing.
I think it's just such a tried and true, and then when things change and you flip Nuge down elsewhere, that's fine. But I think the team is best with Leon Draisaitl as your second-line centerman, and the chemistry he's had with the likes of Vasily Podkolzin, who took huge strides last year. The goal total popped up. And then whether it's Kapanen, whether it's Savoy, I would still be having Matthew Savoy in that spot. And then if it's Kapanen or Podkolzin or maybe Ike Howard, all of a sudden I could be convinced. And I actually do like Savoy as an option on the top line wing as well. But if we're just saying most likely outcome, that's where I would sit is McDavid between Nugent-Hopkins and Podkolzin, or excuse me, Hyman, and then Draisaitl between Savoy and Podkolzin.
And then, so what does your third line look like? Dickinson, Kapanen, and who'd be your third line left wing?
Probably Trent Frederick.
Yeah.
As of today, maybe Colton Dach if he can, be that physical presence and defensively responsible enough to play alongside the likes of Kapanen and Dickinson. I think Joseph was the other new face here.
Yep.
He kind of profiles as your perfect fourth line winger.
Oh, does he ever?
Now, this kind of presents a problem in and of itself is that you don't really have a fourth line centerman as of right now.
May I interest you in Josh
can
Szymanski, sir?
There you go. So that could very well be your most likely outcome. Once again, with the understanding that this is the roster they have available today.
Yeah, just the more I think about it, the more I think I like the idea of Ryan Nugent-Hopkins sliding into that third line left wing role. But then it obviously raises the question of who is that top line left winger? And I know Ike Howard's been thrown out a lot, and I just don't love it. I just don't love the idea of Ike Howard. I just think it's a little too much too soon for a guy like that. And he obviously has top 6 capability. It's kind of his player makeup. It's his mold. He has some prowess there. But maybe it's a mental hurdle I can't get over of, knowing how many games he played last year and what he kind of looked like in size and everything like that. But I kind of always revert to this thing. I'm like, for a team that is in, and I'm obviously not saying this is what's going to happen, but I always revert to that thing. It's like, for a team that is in a cup window like this, he's who we want as our top line left winger. Like that's who we're hitching our wagon to on a pretty important line, which is why I then kind of go in a circle and I say, well, maybe is Nuge the best option? But then when I think you break it down from a hockey perspective or in a hockey sense, he just seems to fit the mold so much better as a third line left winger at this stage.
There's a lot of merit to it. And to be very blunt, Declan, I think that us talking ourselves in circles here about the possibilities that exist, that's a good problem to have. That means you have a collection of good players that can play at different spots in your lineup. I in my opinion, like, options and flexibility are a coach's best friend. Like, you want a guy that can, and a guy being a coach that can recognize consistency as value, and, you know, rolling over the same lines and continuity from a game to the next and throughout a season. But we know that teams hit walls and you need to shuffle the deck a little bit. And all of a sudden you're not asking a genuine fourth line grinder to have to play inside your top six, whether it be Ryan Nugent-Hopkins on the third line, Matt Savoy, Kasperi Kapanen, whoever's maybe playing a little lower in your lineup. We know they're capable of playing in a top six, and when pressed to do so, can have success there more likely than not.
This one comes in from Pat C. He says, boys, completely unnecessary to add anyone at this time. Accrue, all in capital letters. Go big game hunting at the deadline. Yeah, like, I think there's a lot of merit to that. I think it's probably the direction they will go. And to kind of not argue Brandon's point about an embarrassment of riches, I don't know if I would describe it that way. Like, yes, there are options, but I don't know. And maybe I'm putting words in your mouth, Brandon. I don't want to do that unfairly. But I wouldn't describe it as an embarrassment of riches. I would describe it as a embarrassment of options. And I just wonder, like, is there an option that is so high and mighty, clearly the best thing you can do for this top line? And I don't know that I feel like there is. Like, I don't know if I feel like there's an obvious choice. And I feel like I don't want to act like these are bad choices by any stretch of the imagination, but I just feel like a touch of a degree of, it's how can we make this work? Not, oh, this is gangbusters. So.
Yeah, I don't think they have an embarrassment of riches, but as you said, embarrassment of options is definitely the better way to put it, because when you have the best player in the NHL and arguably the second best player at your disposal.
Hey, when they get Nathan McKinnon?
Yeah. Oh, you didn't hear?
I'm just kidding, everybody. I'm just kidding.
Sorry, one of the other top five forwards in the entirety of the NHL, obviously being Leon Draisaitl. You don't need, like, if you look at what the Panthers have done most recently, they've got, I think it's 5 forwards, all making over $8 million now. Look at their decor. It's taken a hit as a result. They had to find a different alternative in goal. And Markstrom's no slouch, but he doesn't have the pedigree and playoff success that a guy like Sergei Bobrovsky had. They weren't willing to pay him, couldn't pay him that money anymore after you look at some of the ads and contracts they've doled out on the forward group. So the Oilers, they're very top heavy with the likes of Draisaitl, McDavid, and Evan Bouchard. But after that, you look down their Puckpedia page, it's all quite balanced for the most part. And that's in the forward and the decor. And you get great prices for the likes of Shea and Connor Murphy. Well, now that gives you a little bit more flexibility to maybe add another big name player probably in season when these names become more readily available as teams diverge towards contender or seller status.
So, do you think there's a possibility? Oh, you just mean teams in general. You're not talking about the Oil.
No.
I thought you were talking about the Oil potentially being sellers of the deadline. I was like, hold on, that's a take.
That would be bad. That would mean something has gone very, 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 very wrong.
Yeah, because the thing is, even if they have like an absolute season from, the pits, you're still not a seller.
No, you're saying, how do we try and make as many changes at the deadline to get us back in the fight down the stretch, or reload for next year if it really is that dire. But it would be a very drastic situation that I would envision the Oilers entering the 2027 trade deadline as sellers.
Well, let's not.
I just can't see it.
That's a hot take. Not to get too ahead of ourselves, but let's get ahead of ourselves a little bit. When you're looking at it right now today on July 7th, and this is such a fun conversation because it is as meaningless as it could get. But when we look at today, July 7th, do you already have maybe a sneaky name in the back of your mind to go big game hunting for? Because I'm talking elephants and white lions.
Is that an expression I should be familiar with?
Nah, I kind of just made it up, so I don't think so.
Elephants and white lions?
Yep.
I like it. I'd like to get that into the mainstream if it's not already. and forgive my ignorance if it is, but
I'm sure it's
super big game hunting. Man, that's always tough to say because I always run into the wall of saying, well, why would that team want to trade that player?
Yes.
Right. And that's the conversation I've been having around the likes of Matthew Nyes here out of Toronto this summer. I said, why would Toronto want to trade him? And when you look at some of those other moves they've made, I don't think that's in their strategy now because they've clearly reloaded with the top pick and say, we intend to be competitive again next year. Why do we trade away our top line winger?
Yeah, like there was a text into the Gregor show yesterday, like, hey, guys, did the Oil ever try to move Darnell Nurse for Jason Robertson? And I'm just kind of like, well, you don't generally move poop for a gold coin. You know what I mean?
Is that the message you screenshotted? And
yeah.
it was still sitting here in like the little snipping tool on the desktop when I turned the screen on this morning. And I thought, I guarantee Declan screenshotted this because of how preposterous.
Yeah, it absolutely. And I don't mean to be rude at all. Like there are so many people out there who know, who have better takes than I do. But it's just like, it's things like that you're kind of like, this is what we're coming, like, Bucks got to stop a little bit.
Yeah. You got to temper expectations. Like they are still a little bit limited. Mm-hmm. Like they have a flexibility financially, salary cap wise, that they have not had the luxury of in any of the past couple of years. Mm-hmm. Right. And so all of a sudden, if you can go into it with as is and give yourself that much more flexibility come trade deadline, I think that's a really good spot to be in. Now, Stan Bowman and the coaching staff and everyone else think that as is the roster is good enough to be that level of competitive through the first, what are we talking, 4 or 5 months of the season before then you make that splash for a deadline. Mm-hmm. I think it is. I think the team is competent enough right now. And a lot of that kind of hinges on this whole notion that everybody seems to be on board with, from Babcock down to McDavid and elsewhere, that this new commitment to team defense that's really easy to say in June and July. Yep. But once rubber hits the road in October and then, into December and January, will they be a new looking team with a lot of the same pieces under a new coach, or will it be kind of more of the same that we've seen from this group in most of their time as Oilers?
Yeah, absolutely. And like, it's quite easy to talk about and sit here and say. It's another thing when it's like, Connor McDavid's never really had a 200-foot game. I know Dry had one season where he was defensively really good and he was getting Selke votes, but he's never been, like, how many seasons have we seen Dry, like, not even take a stride in the defensive zone or on the back check, right? Like, so it's, we can sit here and talk about it, and I do think there's going to be an improvement, certainly, but it's also like we kind of have some Tigers with some stripes. Now, those stripes are being perennial 120 and 100-point players, and not many other teams in the league can talk about that with that consistency, so that's awesome. But that's not the conversation we're having. We're talking about the 200-foot game defensive side of the puck. So let's get to some text here before we get to the break. This one comes in from Perplexed Oilers fan. He says, Tom Wilson. I assume that's in reference to Tom Wilson as an acquisition. It's just simply not going to happen. I love Tom Wilson. He's such a unicorn of a player. It's one of those ones. He's just, it's not going to happen.
Because Washington's clearly really re-geared this offseason, right? The ads of Tuck and Kyrou, a surprisingly large contract to Vincent Desharnais on the back end. And so if the Capitals were out there and shopping a forward where they do seem to have frankly, an embarrassment of riches, I think, when you talk about Ovechkin back, Strome, PLD, Boone Jenner added.
I think if they were going to shop someone, it'd be one of the Protas. Like, it'd be Lexi Protas.
But like, are they looking more down the line and see Tom Wilson as the oldest of these options at 32 and say, this is a deal that maybe we don't think is going to age the best? He has a 14-team no-trade list, which leaves still more than half the league as viable partners for a trade. And they say, can we flip Tom Wilson to help our D-core, which is solid if unspectacular as a collective group, in my opinion. Like Jacob Chikrin coming off an unreal season. If he's your number one, that's fine. But I think you would need a really good number two to be a cup-winning group. Mm-hmm. I think Wilson is a name that could be expendable.
So you are putting it out there, hey?
But I don't think the Oilers are an option, because do the Oilers have this? Like, I think it would be a more of a traditional hockey trade where Wilson is then traded for a team that needs forward help, that might have an extra top-end D-man up for grabs.
Yeah, this will be the last one we read before we get to break. He says, You never know who's up for trade when they all got Pronger and Ekholm and Hyman. Who would want to get rid of them? And of course, Gretzky. Yeah, well, Hyman, free agent, obviously. But yeah, it's fair. Like, you never know who's up for trade. We don't know what's going to happen. Like, absolutely anything can happen. And no player, we've seen it, is untouchable. So it's a fair point as well. But I just think when we're looking at things kind of, and me and Brandon disagree with this to Steve's point as well. I just don't see it as an option. So we can leave it at that. We can come back. We can get more into the text line. We can talk a little FIFA World Cup. Kyle Lowry retiring as a Raptor. Declan Kruger, Brandon Douglas. This is Fantasy Frenzy on Sports 1440.
Kickoff is coming July 9th. Elks, Red Blacks at Play Alberta Field at Commonwealth Stadium. It's Salute to Service presented by YEG Plus. Help us celebrate the heroes and first responders who make our communities great. Get your tickets at goelks.com/tickets.
Support your bones so you can stay active this summer. For the month of July, all CanPrev brand magnesium and collagen supplements are 15% off regular price. Only at Vitality Health Foods, where customer appreciation is the first Tuesday and Wednesday of every month.
Beer League Slow Pitch. It's an Alberta summer tradition.
I got shortstop. I'll take pitcher. Yeah, I'm just here for the dugout snacks.
When you're playing on the field, you need serious fuel. And there's only one MVP.
Will Hawk Beef Jerky.
Load up on Alberta's best beef jerky and hit a home run with the team. It's the perfect snack for your summer sports.
Will Hawk Beef Jerky, because you can't have summer fun with salad. Only available in Leduc.
Sleep is for the off-season. What off-season? Sports 1440 is live, loud, and locked 24/7. Oilers, Elks, Riverhawks, Stingers, Oil Kings. We've got your picks. Edmonton's home for sports is Sports 1440.
Photographers, start your cameras. Vision Credit Union's annual photo contest is back. We're asking you to show us the people, places, and moments that made you glad you chose this rural life. Maybe it's the view from your farm, a walk down Main Street, neighbors pitching in, a weekend at the rodeo, or a sunset down a back road. Share your photo to show why life in rural Alberta is a choice worth celebrating. Enter and vote at what'syourshare.ca.
You may get up early, but more than likely, the team at GS Construction have already gotten up before you, grabbed a coffee, headed to the site, and started their day. So while Edmonton wakes up, GS crews are already underground, quietly keeping things moving, upgrading, and laying the new underground infrastructure for our growing city. If you're the kind of person who goes to sleep with their steel-toed boots on, GS Construction wants to hear from you. We're looking for a maintenance foreman as well as a building and yard attendant. Visit gsconstruction.ca for more.
Alberta is growing, but our highways are crumbling. Are you tired of the rough ride? In the last 15 years, our population has grown with hundreds of thousands more cars and trucks on our highways. Today, more than 15% of Alberta's highways are in poor condition. Cutting highway maintenance doesn't save money. It makes repairs more expensive. Don't let the government ignore the problem. Your MLA works for you. Tell them to fix our roads. Visit fixourroads.com for more information.
A message from the Alberta Road Builders and Heavy Construction Association.
We just dropped a massive payload at NISQ 4. It's time to unload some deals at the Truckload of Savings event. If you've been waiting to upgrade, we've backed up the savings with unbeatable offers on our toughest Fords. Right now, haul away exactly what you need and take advantage of massive price drops across our entire lineup, including the legendary Ford F-150 for the job site or the weekend getaway. Shop the Truckload of Savings at nisqford.ca. Nisq Ford, above expectations.
Who should start? Who needs to hit the bench? Find out with Fantasy Frenzy with Halley and Douglas. This is Sports 1440.
Presented by Will Hawk Beef Jerky, home of Alberta's best beef jerky.
Frenzy Sports 1440 with Halley and Douglas. Declan Kruger, Declan Kruger sitting in for Connor Halley, I should say. Brandon Douglas here, of course, and Josh Fenwick as well. As always, Fantasy Frenzy is powered by Will Hawk Beef Jerky. Portions of this segment we're about to get to as we dive into the text line, talk a little World Cup and more, are going to be brought to you by Elks Nation. You can check out the new website, elksnation.ca. Articles, podcasts, and more breaking down the green and gold. Both in-depth W football coverage online, elksnation.ca. You'd think for a guy who's like works there, I'd read the liner a little bit more naturally.
Well, maybe that you wouldn't even need the liner, but
one would think. But here
you're like, brought to you by Elks Nation. Oh, let me just spin my yarn and promote my product essentially.
Well, every now and then when the liner comes up, because we have it for the update for Low Tide Show,
right?
I always think about saying like, "Hey, I'm there," but it's a little bit too vain. Like I don't know.
Sometimes,
and here's the other thing:
you don't want to overthink it.
Is that a selling point?
That you're there?
Yeah.
Well, it is to me.
Well, I appreciate that. I want to get to this text from MTR because he says embarrassment of options is such a bar. Thank you. I thought of that in the moment. I was proud of that one. This one comes in from the one-arm bandit. He says, hey guys, Savoy had some good chemistry with 97 and 18, Pods and Dry with Howard, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins on the third line with Dickinson and Cappy, Freddie with Szymanski and Doc. Love the third line. Love the fourth line. I don't know if I love Ike Howard with Leon Draisaitl. And I just don't know if I love Matt Savoy with Connor McDavid. Like, I like Matt Savoy as a player a lot, but I just think in some of those games when he'll get moved off the puck tough. And I think one thing with Connor McDavid is like Connor McDavid, he's obviously always looking for guys. That's kind of his game, but he looks for guys to get him the puck so he can break out. And he looks to guys who can go in the corner and get the puck. And I'm just like, I just don't know if Savoy's that. I really, really like Matt Savoy as a player. Brandon, maybe you can speak to this better than I'm explaining it right now. How do you feel about those two top lines? Savoy playing with obviously Connor McDavid and Zach Hyman, and then that Dry centering Ike Howard and Vasily Podkolzin.
Like we saw,
you kind of come out where I do.
We saw Savoy have success playing alongside Connor McDavid last season.
Absolutely.
But when you mentioned this before we went to break about Leon Draisaitl and wanting to reaffirm his abilities as a premier defensive center, as well as, the scoring threat that we know him to be, his career and his accolades speak for themselves. So if that is your target, is you want Draisaitl to also maybe be your shutdown line. Now you have Dickinson as your option in the third group, which is it's a luxury that in this era, the Oilers haven't really had as a true premier defensive third line center. I think Savoy, like his 200-foot game, lends itself well to that profile, whether it's alongside Dickinson or Draisaitl. So this just goes back to my original point, Deck, that this flexibility that Mike Babcock and his staff will have about how to deploy their lines, they're not stuck in this world where, oh my goodness, nothing's going right. Our only option is to load up the top line, and that's it. Because these players are versatile.
Yep.
And I love Vasily Podkolzin playing
Vasily Podkolzin.
Like as a player, and then playing on Draisaitl's wing, it just seems like his puck retrieval abilities on the forecheck, I just think they complement Draisaitl's game so well that I'm putting him there pretty much regardless.
Yeah, without question.
Like in today's NHL, it seems that coaches are more keen to work out of pairs rather than trios if you're talking about line groups. And so if the Oilers, that to me is McDavid and Hyman, and then Draisaitl and Podkolzin.
Yeah, I mean, like that's quite simply put, that's one that's a staple. Like you're staple together. And Leon Draisaitl put it eloquently last season, and he can obviously describe it in a way much better than we can. But he said, listen, people who don't always understand hockey don't understand the little things he does consistently that makes my game elevate. And I think a lot of people have kind of become keen to it, and they've kind of realized that this is a real thing. And the way like he does all, I don't even know what an apt description would be outside of the sporting world, but it's almost like that kid in class who is just always bringing, this is a terrible description. He's always like bringing you a pencil or something. You know what I mean? Like it's the little things you don't see.
Declan Kruger, the guy that's rolling into class as the bell rings and all of a sudden, oh crap, there's a test today. How am I going to write this test, this quiz? Here's me, the nerd sitting in front of you. I turn around, push my glasses up my face and say, here you go, buddy. And I hand you off a spare one that I've got in my little knapsack book bag.
Yeah. My descriptor was so bad. I don't even want to think about it. I could have done way better there. I was.
You capped out with your embarrassment of options bar.
Yeah. That one was kind of my magnus opus for the day. I don't know if it'll get better than that. Dave from Stony, he chimes in. He says, where does Janmark fit in? Dave from Sony, where do you want Matthias Janmark to fit in? Do you want Matthias Janmark on this team? Like, do you want him playing on that fourth line with Szymanski and Frederick? Like, I sure don't. Did we watch Matthias Janmark last season? He's obviously got the modified no trade, but I mean, that is just the absolute staple for me of a guy who is going to be on another team or in the press box.
You think so?
Oh, dude, I think Matthias Janmark is beyond washed. I think he has such little value.
I think he still has value as a fourth line player and a penalty killer.
I mean, he goes up there and he plays on a PK that gets scored on.
Same thing happens to almost everyone for the Oilers last year. The penalty kill was
it
not
did.
good.
That's my thing. So that's that's why when Boost was in Norris conversations and everyone was talking about, but he PKs. Yeah, he's sick. He goes there and he gets scored on.
Exactly.
Awesome. How valuable.
You're preaching to the choir there. That was my number one point. I said, so he plays a lot of minutes on the penalty kill. Good. The penalty kill stinks. That's not a feather in his cap.
Mm-hmm.
But you still need people that can kill penalties. Have the Oilers shored up their depth forwards enough with the adds of, Dickinson back, Matthew Joseph.
Mm-hmm.
Is it because I think most people are in agreement. We don't want to see Leon Draisaitl and Connor McDavid out there killing penalties on a kill-to-kill basis.
No.
Listen, spot duty, and when you're in penalty trouble and they seem to be compounding, you got to get your best guys on the ice. That's fine.
Absolutely, dude. Run it like Sather used to.
And finding other ways to get ice time for players when you are leaning heavily on your top six, that's valuable. So if Janmark's your extra forward or one of your rotating extra forwards with the likes of Matthew Joseph, Max Jones, Szymanski probably has to play center, so he's probably in the lineup more nights than not. And there was a lot of encouraging things we saw in his limited sample size last year. I'm on board with that, but I don't think it's not like he's not an NHL player.
No, but there's a difference between not being an NHL player and not having a role on this team. And that's just where he comes out for me.
So you're saying you would rather just part him out for essentially nothing and just free up the just under $1.5 million.
Yeah, I would. And it's not necessarily a knock on Matthias Janmark. And obviously, what was that? Was that the 23-24 run when him and Connor Brown were absolute electricity on the penalty kill? My goodness, were they ever good. But when I look, he's not a third liner, obviously. I think we all know that. We can get that out of our heads right now. On that fourth line, I do not want him playing over Colton Dach. I definitely don't want him play. He's not he can play center, I guess. Do I want him centering over Josh Szymanski at this point in his career? Probably not. And he's also not a true center. And then I think ideally I would like to have Trent Frederick on that right side. So I just don't, it's not that he's not an NHL player, but there's a difference between being an NHL player. But
you need extras. You need spare parts, NHL spare parts that aren't just constantly on recall from Bakersfield.
But what about Matthew Joseph?
Well, I think he's in your lineup more nights than not.
Okay, well, I mean, so where does he work in? Because now I feel like we almost have four guys for our
it's a fair point.
So I don't know. And Ryan came in and said the janitor slander from Declan is atrocious. How dare you drag Janmark through the mud? He scored the only goal in Game 7 of the 24 final. Well,
it's 2 years ago,
and they lost that game. I know we don't like to talk about it, but listen, Matthias Janmark provided some really incredible value, I think, for who he was at certain points. I just think at this point and coming off the season he just had, there's no way he's in my lineup. But that's just me. Everyone can be different, and that's fine. This one comes in from EG. He says Janmark's one playoff run was the definition of what PDO is. Yeah. Not going to get an argument here. Staub Boffer says, what was Bouchard's PK goals against compared to other D relative to minutes on the PK? We're not doing this. I know he's an elite defenseman. I love Evan Bouchard. If I had to vote, I would have voted for him second for Norris. He's an incredible player. But I'm just saying, I hated that argument because the whole argument was these other guys don't PK, like Cale Makar doesn't PK, Zach Werenski doesn't PK. Evan Bouchard PKs, that's what makes him stand out. Yeah, sick. He PKs, but he goes out there and gets walked and scored on. What value, man? That was my only argument. I'm not. He says, "Coward, run the numbers." I'll run the numbers to stop Buffer. I will run the numbers during the break. I wanted to talk a little World Cup. You guys cool with that?
I would love that,
because I want to talk a little And by the way, Egypt took a 2-0 lead against Argentina. The goal was called back. Triple C in a truck, he said. FIFA protecting their gold, helping out their golden girls. Egypt has since scored again. They once again lead the game 2-0 in the 69th minute. Looking very much like the reigning world champions will be going home this round. So just an update for anyone who's curious. But Cristiano Ronaldo, Brandon, he went out yesterday.
Yep.
He had some pretty scathing numbers in the World Cup in terms of box touches, in terms of expected assists created, in terms of shots on target. He obviously had the one knockout stage goal, but it came via spot kick. Where do you come out on Cristiano Ronaldo's World Cup and possibly moreover his footballing tenure now that his international career probably comes to an end?
I know so little about the finer points of the game that I'm like, listen, I'm not going to sit here and sit on a high horse and say, yeah, those numbers are not very encouraging and they're not very flattering to a guy that is, I don't think you can deny he's one of the best to ever play the sport. But at international levels and the highest international levels, headlined by the World Cup, he has not elevated his game to the same likes of, say, Messi, or we're seeing from Mbappe in a couple World Cups, who's already he's going to pass Messi, and he's still got how much runway to go for total goals at the World Cup. I just don't think he belongs in that tier of discussion, and I guess it maybe would depend on how you weigh World Cup versus other events, club team results, etc. This is the pinnacle. This is the biggest sporting event in the world. If you want that type of legacy, you have to show up here. And unfortunately, he really hasn't.
Yeah, listen, his international, he does have the Euro he won in 2016. He brought some trophies to Portugal. But like that Portugal team, and granted, they got a really tough draw with Spain. But when you look at Vitinha, who, to be fair, doesn't always play that well outside of PSG's system. But that system's a little bit more, it's a little bit more attack heavy. There's a lot more center control. But when you look at him and when you look at Pedri and when you look at the best left back in the world, Nuno Mendes, it's like, yeah, Ronaldo, in my mind, is the second best soccer player to ever play the game. But you get to a point when you're a 41-year-old egomaniac who doesn't really do a whole lot out there other than hang around and try and take goals from your teammates, like you are going to cost the team. And again, it was a tough draw against Spain. Spain was phenomenal and is phenomenal roster-wise. They've had 5 games and 5 clean sheets. Defensively, they're incredible. But we should have seen more out of that Portugal team. And for him to score 2 goals against Uzbekistan and talk about, oh, I'm back. And my thing about Ronaldo is, as good as I think Ronaldo is, I think he's the second best soccer player ever. Him going out in his final World Cup, what we presume is going to be his final World Cup, the way he went out is kind of it's kind of apropos for how his career has been. It's always been about himself, and everyone else has always been the problem, and he's always been absolved of responsibility, and he kind of carried that sentiment into Portugal's exit. So incredible career, but it's just really tough when, there's another guy you've been compared to who has 3 more Ballon d'Ors than you do, has that World Cup, has more non-penalty goals, and I think everyone just has way more goals created when you look at goals and assists, and say that you can be on par with him. I just think this is kind of something that really shuts the conversation down.
Final thing on the World Cup, Declan, I hadn't really got the chance to chat with you about your thoughts from the fallout from the United States Balogun suspension of the suspension. And then, listen, it all proves moot because they lose last night, which they're not as good of a team as Belgium.
Mm-hmm.
And that was very much on display. The group did not play well, the American team. But I kind of wanted you as a guy that's very vested in soccer and knows a lot of the ins and outs from tournament to tournament, event to event, about the decision by FIFA to suspend the 1-game ban that Balogun faced from the previous red card against Bosnia and Herzegovina.
Dude, I just don't get it at all. It makes no sense. You have a rule and then you just say, "No, actually forget it." Dude, it'd be like if someone broke the law and they're like, actually, you don't have to go to jail for that. It's fine. And there was no other explanation. Like, that's all it was. Like, if you get a red card, you get a match suspension. They just said, no, forget about it. Like, it makes there is no justification. It makes no sense. There's nothing else I can say. And here, like, you want to talk about, like, was it a red card or was it not? I thought it was a red card. Did you?
But by the letter of the law, it is.
Yeah.
Like, was it intentional? No, but that's not what the rule is, right? It's you're jumping up and you come down on the guy's ankle, intentional or not. I think that fits the writing of the rule as I interpret it, that it's a red card. Now, should the rule be different that if you get a red card at a certain point in the game, or it's like, should it automatically come with a 1-game suspension, or should that be determined based on intent or something, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'll hear those arguments, but that's not what we're talking about. And we've had plenty of texts come in over the past couple of days as we've kind of been, really chastising FIFA and frankly the American government for their alleged role in having this ban put in place, compared to like faulting the player or the team. Like, they're not the ones that asked for this.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, I'll hear the discussions about changing the rules in making it a little bit clearer. That's fine. But we only have them as they're written right now. And don't come at me with they removed Ronaldo's from a friendly back in the fall so he could play, and they didn't call the card on Messi for doing the same thing. Okay, well, those are mistakes. Making more mistakes to make up for other mistakes, it's one of the oldest cliches in the book. Two rights don't make a wrong.
Yep.
Just because they didn't call a foul on Messi for cleating someone doesn't mean that you shouldn't call it on Balogun.
Yeah.
And as a result, that shouldn't have been a foul in the first place, so it's not right that he gets suspended. That's not how it works. And that's me, who knows so little about soccer. Even I can understand that that's not how it works.
Yeah, you're calling it soccer. You're not even calling it football.
Wow, I like to switch back and forth.
I guess we'll get to this final one before we go to break. Ontario Mome says, the most corrupt country got a helping hand from the most corrupt sports organization. Why are you surprised? Yeah, I guess we shouldn't be. I mean, that's exactly what it was. Like, there are some pretty corrupt organizations out there. The NCAA comes to mind, the IOC, of course. FIFA blows them all out of the water. And then when you think about, like, hey, which country and which president in today's political climate and current landscape would do it, and I think a lot of people, if you asked 100, maybe 90 of them would say the States. So it is very apt in that sense. The one thing I will say, though, is we got the best hate watch of all time. And Belgium really drubbed them. And I saw a hilarious tweet. Someone, clearly an American, or I have to presume an American, he came out and he tweeted, or they came out and they tweeted, Belgium are monsters. And someone else quote tweeted it and said, this is hilarious because Belgium is ass. And they have not been a very good team this World Cup.
No, they've underachieved a lot up to this point, but they brought their best when they needed it most. I think you had to think there's a little bit of galvanization within the group around all this controversy and drama that they say, listen, F them, let's just go out there and win the football game.
Yeah.
And they did. So all the power to them. Like, the United States played, that was so bad.
Oh, it was.
And then that third goal, I keep repeating myself over the course of the morning here. Like, it was just giving me shades of Young Wei Koo.
Oh man,
kicking that field goal or trying to.
Just
with the mistake that Freeze made coming out to play that one.
Hilarious comparison. All right, I guess we'll take a break. We will come back. Final segment, wrap things up, talk a little bit more oil, go around the NHL, maybe talk a little bit of the NBA. This is Declan and Brandon here on Fantasy Frenzy on Sports 1440.
Hi, Mike here from Northgate Chevrolet Buick GMC. Car shopping sucks. That's right. Going back and forth 100 times just to get a price. Give me your credit card for a test drive. What's all these extra fees? That sounds ridiculous. At Northgate, we do things a little differently. Good deals on new, pre-owned vehicles, good people, and a great selection. Stop in and see us today, 13215 97th Street, or visit us online at northgategm.com.
You're in Northgate country.
Thinking of growing your business? In partnership with Prairie's Can, the Alberta Chambers of Commerce is helping businesses explore new opportunities, new markets, and build connections through organized trade missions across Canada. Find the right mission for you at abchamber.ca/trade missions. Welcome to the Bro Zone, the ultimate garage setup for checking out the big game.
70-inch TV? Check. Surround sound? Check. Mini fridge fully stocked?
A check. But a legendary brozone needs legendary snacks.
Will Hawk Beef Jerky.
Load up on Alberta's best beef jerky. It's the perfect game day companion when you're watching from the ultimate fan cave.
Will Hawk Beef Jerky, because you can't have summer fun with salad. Only available in Leduc. Support your bones so you can stay active this summer. For the month of July, all CanPrev brand magnesium and collagen supplements are 15% off regular price. Only at Vitality Health Foods, where customer appreciation is the first Tuesday and Wednesday of every month.
Summit Restaurant, located in the heart of the Silent Ice Center and just minutes from South Edmonton Common. Summit is your destination for exceptional house-made pizza, delicious entrees, and expertly crafted cocktails. Experience the perfect blend of flavor and ambiance in a modern setting. Join us for a straightforward yet elevated dining experience where our commitment to quality speaks to every bite and sip. Make Summit Restaurant your next night on the town. This July will be epic. BetMGM Casino is coming to Alberta on July 13th with over 4,000 casino games, including exclusive slots like Game of Thrones. Sign up early and download the app to get started. Then get ready to spin July 13th. It's gonna be legendary. See BetMGM.com for terms. 18 plus only. Please play responsibly. Alberta only. Subject to eligibility requirements.
If gambling is affecting your mental health or well-being, 211 Alberta is here to help. Call or text 211 or visit ab.211.ca. BetMGM operates pursuant to an operating agreement with the Alberta iGaming Corporation. Standard message and data rates may apply.
For over 60 years, the folks at Diablo Boots have been selling the best Canadian-made boots. Handcrafted in Winnipeg, Canada West makes the best quality cowboy, biker, and work boots for Diablo Boots with replaceable soles and heels. Why buy cheaper quality like Ariat, Justin, and Red Wing made in China when Canadian-made is better? Support Canada's workers and Diablo Boots for the best boots. So save on boots by Save On Foods. That's Diablo Boots, 3340 Gateway Boulevard on the east side of Save On Foods. Canada West and Diablo Boots, the two best names in the boots business.
Every coach needs a game plan. Plan your fantasy frenzy with Halley and Douglas right here on Edmonton's Sports 1440.
Presented by Will Hawk Beef Jerky, home of Alberta's best beef jerky.
Welcome back in Fantasy Frenzy Sports 1440 with Halley and Douglas. Declan Kruger sitting in for Connor Halley, Brandon Douglas, and Josh Fenwick here as well. So, a couple segments ago, Stoff Bobber, I hope I got that right. Stob Boffer, little slip of the tongue there. He said, what was Bouchard's PK goals against compared to other D relative to minutes on the PK? It's a good question. It's a fair question. Didn't know. He said, he called me a coward, told me to run the numbers. He was joking. But Brandon, you actually have the numbers here for us.
I ran the numbers.
You did run the numbers.
Defending your honor as a coward.
I appreciate that.
So Evan Bouchard last season, this is via a natural stat trick, played 147 minutes and 52 seconds of penalty kill ice time. So that's all penalty kill situations. In those minutes, he was on for 18 goals against. Now, he was also on the ice for 3 shorthanded goals scored. So let's just call that a minus 15 differential, right? Cale Makar played 1 less minute, 146.55. So just less than 57 seconds less of penalty kill time. He was on for 13 goals against and 1 goal for. So notice, like that's a noticeable difference, right? Some other names. So if we just move up from Bouchard and escalating ice time, and this goes up from anywhere from like a minute to all of a sudden we're up to about like 10 minutes more. Brandon Carlo. So Bouchard ranks 72nd in total shorthanded minutes played. Brandon Carlo is 64th. So we're jumping up 8 spots there. He was on for 18 goals against. Sean Walker, 21 against, but also 6-4. So 6 shorthanded goals on for 21 penalty kill goals against. So that's still the same minus 15 differential. Josh Manson, 20 goals against. McNabb, 18 goals against. Then you get into some better guys who are also closer to Bouchard's ice time. Owen Power, who was 152.42. So we're talking about like 5 minutes more. 12 goals against. Crevier, 12 goals against. Jake Middleton, not very pretty, 20 goals against. And then Ryan McDonough, 16 goals against. So amongst most of his peers in this short-handed situations, it's very similar. But are any of those names I just listed, Declan, what you would consider number one defenseman?
Oh, I mean, you listed Cale Makar. So yes, I understand
the ones above him. Yes. And so let's just find the other, call it number one offensive producer guy that would be on this list. So the other one closest I would say is Owen Power.
Yep.
Who plays heavy minutes. McNabb played quite a lot of minutes, obviously, for Vegas as well. Both those guys, like McNabb was similar to Bouchard. Power was much better.
Yep.
6 shorthanded goals for when he was on the ice, 12 against. So that's only a -6 differential to Bouchard's. And we know what Makar's are. And then Erik Karlsson. So he played less minutes, 140. So it's about 7 less minutes. He was on for just 11 shorthanded goals against and on for 2-4. So a -9 differential.
So I think it's safe to assume that the scathing reviews and the narratives that existed were not unfair.
Yeah,
would you say that's a reasonable conclusion to come to?
He's not a great penalty killer. Based on the simplest metric of how many goals is he on for. Now, he's not a one-man unit. There are other factors to consider, but this just goes back to the genesis of this conversation. And as requested by that texter, look at the numbers. Mm-hmm. These are the numbers he wanted. We gave them to him. He does not stand out amongst his closest comparables for ice time.
None of which that you aptly mentioned were number one defenseman. And my thing was
now, how about my boy Jackson Lacombe, just really quickly, because he was
talk a little bit.
Quite a few less minutes as we're getting some excitement in the footy game here. Jackson Lacombe, Declan, 28 goals against while he was on the ice shorthanded. Just 1-4. Not ideal.
That's not a glowing goal for percentage.
No. Mackenzie Weegar, split last year between Calgary and Utah. 16 goals against, 3-4. Not bad. Pretty good.
Yeah, and my thing just goes back to obviously we just ran the numbers and they weren't great in Bouchard's favor, and that obviously supports the argument. But we knew what Edmonton's PK was, and so I just always hated the narrative that compared to these other elite guys. Oh, and by the way, we got Cale Makar's numbers pulled up there; they were much better. But I just hated the idea that just because he's on the PK, that's why he deserves.
Valuable.
Yeah.
Well, dude, you can roll me out there.
Nothing
doesn't mean I'm going to be any good.
Yeah, nothing sick about going out there and just getting scored on all the time, which is what it was. So we'll leave it at that. We don't need to, keep harping on a conversation that's a season older now. So in the World Cup, Argentina has tied it up 2-2. Messi with the equalizer. It was never going to be anyone else, and it was an absolute cracker of a shot. So I know we can't say too much about it, but some pretty crazy stuff going on there. Get to a TV if you're not by it. This one comes in from RF. He says, "Hey, boys, my bottom 6 would be Jones, Doc, Frederick, Clattenburg, Dickinson, and Joseph." Ooh, so you want Connor Clattenburg and Matthew Joseph and Max Jones here full time? That seems a little... Because then, I haven't even read the rest of his text yet. But then it's what do your top 2 look like? Anyway, he goes on to say the third line should be a complete checking shutdown line with size and grit, and that usually wins you a series in the playoffs. Having Hopkins, Savoy, or Howard on the third line just going to get crunched in the playoffs. They're not a checking shutdown personnel. Yeah, but it's so now, if you run Max Jones with Colton Dock and Trent Frederick, and then Connor Clattenburg with Jason Dickinson and Matthew Joseph, all of a sudden you have Kasperi Kapanen, Vasily Podkolzin, Leon Draisaitl, Matt Savoy, Ike Howard, Connor McDavid, Zach Hyman, and Ryan Nugent-Hopkins. I just listed off 8 names for 6 spots. And who do you really want to take out of there? And then the other question becomes do you still feel like Ryan Nugent-Hopkins is your top line left winger? Maybe you do, and that's fine. I think a lot of people fall into that camp. If you don't want him on that top line because you're in favor of Ike Howard moving into that spot, seeing what he can do, or Matt Savoy because of some of the chemistry, do you want to play Ryan Nugent-Hopkins with Leon Draisaitl? And then Vasily Podkolzin, he plays the left side. So are you shifting him over to the right side now and not having him in his natural spot? I like the idea of what's going on there, but I just think Max Jones, Connor Clattenburg, and Matthew Joseph all being staples in your top 6. For one, I don't think it's going to happen. But 2, I just think in a lot of ways it's not feasible either. I was waiting for you to jump in there, Brandon.
Oh,
I can keep going. I
thought you were just collecting yourself after a emphatic conclusion to that particular thought. No, I'm with you. Like, it's not intentionally just being agreeable. Like, we all want a balanced lineup, but that doesn't mean you have to sacrifice your top 6 overall quality, like by playing, as we said, kind of grinders up there. You still want your skilled players in your top 6.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's get to this one from Biased Oilers fan as we kind of close out the show here. He says none of those PK stats include the fact that the Oilers had worse goaltending than everyone else. Look at the expected numbers. Y'all need to learn what stats to read. Stop Boffer is correct. Listen.
Okay, first of all, what?
Brandon's going in.
Go back and read the text that Staub Boffer, excuse me.
First of all, he didn't really. He didn't really say anything.
What was Bouchard's PK goals against compared to other D relative to minutes on the penalty kill? Those are the numbers he asked for. Those are the numbers we just presented.
Yes.
Full stop. There, and we just said there are a million other factors. Your teammates, the ability to penalty kill, your goaltending, 100%.
And this is my thing.
And we're not trying to indict Evan Bouchard. We're just saying these are the facts. He was out for this many goals against on the penalty kill. It's not saying he's a bad D-man.
No, and how many times do I have to say he would have been second on my Norris ballot? I'm not trying to bury the guy, but oh my goodness, this argument that, well, he PK'd, he went out there and he got walked. And the other thing, when you say look at expected numbers, how about we look at what actually happened?
Yeah.
Expected numbers are so overused. I like goals saved above expected. I think that is a great metric to measure goalies. But people who attach themselves to expected. I want to talk about what actually happens. Can we talk about what actually happens? And what actually happens is when he goes out there, he gets scored on. The expected numbers were going, the goalies were bad. I know it's always everyone else's fault. Oh, I can't believe it. Who gives a rip about expected numbers? At some point, the expected numbers are just that. They are expected numbers. Let's talk about what actually happens on the ice. Because we had, how many minutes was it, Brandon? 147? We had 147 minutes of evidence. I could care less about what the expected was when we had all that comparable and what actually happened on the ice. Shout out Staub Boffer, though. I liked his question a lot. And thank you, Brandon, for answering it. All right, we got to get to a sports update brought to you by Cattail Crossing. Early bird deal every Saturday and Sunday, 6 a.m. to 7:30 a.m. $50 for 9 holes with a cart and a Caddyshack snack voucher. Book now, cattailcrossing.ca.
This is a Sports 1440 update.
Final day of round of 16 action at the World Cup. Argentina and Egypt in stoppage time, tied at 2 apiece. Argentina erasing a 2-0 deficit to tie the match. Coming up at 2 o'clock, final game on Canadian soil as Colombia takes on Switzerland from BC Place in Vancouver. In the majors today, full slate of games, including the Blue Jays continue their set in San Francisco against the Giants. Spencer Miles will take the bump as the opener in a bullpen day for Toronto. First pitch coming 7:45 Mountain. Catch that game right here on Sports 1440. In the WCL, Edmonton Riverhawks with a day game down at Remax Field. 1:05 scheduled first pitch taken on Nanaimo. And at Wimbledon, Felix Auger-Aliassime quarterfinal action. Still going at it with Novak Djokovic. Chance to advance through to the semifinals. Coming up on Sports 1440, it is the Lowdown with Low Tide. I'm Brandon Douglas at your Sports 1440 update.
This is Sports 1440,
A Stingray radio station.
broadcasting on Treaty 6 territory.
Download the free iHeartRadio app and listen to CKJR wherever you go.
And now Action Electrical's testing team is on defense duty.